afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all doing super well today. I am really looking forward to today's training. I think it's going to be very good and hopefully open your eyes to some good things about annuities, which I know not a lot of people have a lot of positive things, but there are some times, and I think they're okay. Let me turn off this music here so we can get started. Hope you guys don't mind a little holiday music. You know, this one time a year, it's just so much fun. A lot of family time, a lot of good time trying to get to the snow and do some snowboarding or skiing. So I hope you're doing some things like that. But it can also be a really important time when it comes to your financial aspects, because there's a lot of things we could be doing towards the end of the year here when it comes to making good financial decisions going into 2019. So making sure you're maxing out your 401ks and IRAs, making sure you're double checking if there's anything you can do to reduce some taxes before the end of the year. A lot of things that go into that. So hopefully you're taking care of those financial aspects, and if not, definitely reach out for some help with that. But today, I'm really excited to do this training with you. I think it should be a lot of fun. And let me pull it up here. Oops, let me do this actually real quick. Okay, so I had a little fun today. Hope that's all right with you. And decided to title this training, 2 Annuities I Don't Hate, right? I just think annuities, you know, in general, they're just oversold. And for most folks, you know, besides what I'm going to talk about today, there's just a lot of things that just aren't necessary, that are oversold, that at the end of the day is a transfer of wealth from your pockets to the salesman, when in reality, most folks really need a comprehensive financial plan, and maybe annuities is one part of their income stream, but you should not be putting all of your money in an annuity except in very extremely rare cases. So hopefully you keep that in mind. Let's see here. Before we get going, if you have questions about annuity, Calvetta got it. Good job, Calvetta. Deck the halls. If you have questions about anything I'm talking about today, make sure to put them in the comments. I will make time at the end to answer your questions and to go over some of those things. Couple quick announcements. I know I posted earlier this week that I want to be doing like a group retirement planning program. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. It's going to be a ton of value. So if you are interested, please keep an eye out, because I'm going to post a like a survey essentially, right? So that you can tell me what's most important to you. And then we'll put something together that's really going to address your specific needs and make sure that it is of high value when it comes to getting your retirement planning right. So keep a lookout for that. But today we're going to get right into the training. We're going to talk about 2 annuities I don't hate. And this is part 4 of the Creating Sustainable Income Streams in Retirement series, I guess you could say. It's become a pretty heavy series. So for those of you that want to catch the previous training modules, they're in the video section. I am going to be updating some of the video section to make it a little bit more searchable. Facebook's not great at it, but they have this tool in here called Units, and so I'm going to start placing some of those there. One other thing I want you to keep a lookout for is in the group under the I think it's under the information section or in the rules section. But I'm going to be adding some info there, and I'll share that with you, so keep a lookout for that. That's going to be coming this week. It's where I showed you the other day about, you know, kind of the background of this group and policies and things like that. So I'm going to be updating that this week with some new info and a special gift for you. Okay, I just finished up an ebook. I finished up updating it and making it look really pretty. So I have a really nice ebook for you that you can download there. I'll be updating that in the next day or two. So please keep a lookout, and so you can download that. So outside of that, let's jump right into the training today. It's called 2 Annuities I Don't Hate. And again, you know, annuities totally get a bad rap a lot of times, but there are a couple, you know, there's situations, well, this is big. I didn't mean to make that big, guys, sorry. But you know, the point of this being here, it's a disclaimer saying, please do not take anything I say as specific investment advice for you or your situation. Get the help you need. This is not tax advice, not legal advice. This is information to help you retire with confidence, okay? So I know it's a little bit big. I didn't mean to make it that big. I apologize. I'll fix that on my my training. But, you know, again, this is for informational purposes. If you need additional help, if you want to know things are for you, reach out to a professional, okay? All right, so let's talk about this. The use of life annuities, while it's favored by economists, is the least favorite strategy among consumers looking to fund their retirement. among many advisors, it's really the same thing because, like I was mentioning before, people are just typically sold the products with the biggest commissions, not what they need, right? So I should make this clear, I personally do not sell insurance. I do not sell annuities. I'm a fee-only advisor, so what I'm telling you here today is not going to impact me whether you buy anything or not. I do work with a partner company that works only with fiduciary advisors like myself, so if we need an annuity, then they can help us out with that, and they dial the commissions all the way down to the bottom, and everybody with the company I work with gets paid on salary. So but the reason why they're sold is because at the end of the day, folks want to make the biggest commission. So you got to be a little bit careful with that. But despite this, annuities do provide good longevity insurance. Okay, so annuities are a good way to help you prevent, really running out of money or having nothing else to live on but Social Security. So they can be a good solution for certain situations, which we will talk about today. If you're not sure what an annuity is, it's essentially a contract with an insurance company to provide a set amount of income, monthly or annual, for life in exchange for either one large payment or several other small payments. Okay, pretty straightforward. I should take that back. Annuities are definitely not straightforward. They're very confusing. There's a lot of trickery that goes on inside these things, but what they do is pretty straightforward. Okay. So the loss of control over the principal is what concerns most people, and that's a very valid concern. I have that concern personally. But for many, the benefits of lifetime income outweigh the concerns of controlling the principal. Okay, so it's a trade-off here. You're going to lose control of the principal, but then you get a lifetime income stream. Social Security is essentially an annuity. That's what it is. But it has a cost of living adjustment, which many annuities don't. But that's essentially what a good way to look at an annuity is, like an insurance contract. Okay, it's not typically an investment unless you're dealing with variable, which variable, again, certain situations, but not for most. So today I'm going to talk to you about two types of annuities I don't hate. I actually like them for certain situations, but I wanted to title this something fun. So there's two that I don't hate. One is called a single premium immediate annuity, and the other one is called a qualified longevity annuity contract. So really long names here, but we're going to refer to them in the training as an SPIA and a QLAC or QLAC. I'll probably just say QLAC. It's easiest for me to say that. But these are the two we're going to talk about today. We're going to start with single premium immediate annuities. So what they are essentially a variation of the bucket strategy. So if you've been with us for our last few trainings, we talked about bucket strategies, 2 trainings back, those 2 Sundays back, and creating different buckets for different periods in retirement. One to create guaranteed income streams, and then ones for later to keep up with inflation and beat inflation so that you are not, again, reducing the risk of running out of money. So SPIAs can be used to create an immediate income stream from a single lump sum investment. So how much would that income stream be? At the end of the day, it's determined by the interest rate in effect at the time the contract is issued, I spelled by wrong there, and by the payment option selected. So when you go to select a payment option for your annuity, and this goes with pensions as well, right? So you're going to get different choices. You're going to get life only, which means, so if you're the only person on the contract, right, then it's only going to be for your life, okay? You could have a joint life. So if you have a spouse, you and your spouse, it'll be for your lives. There's also period certain where you can get a guaranteed stream for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it may be. And there's other options as well, but these are sort of the main ones. But it really is determined by the interest rate and then the payment option that you select. That's how you'll know how much income you'll receive. Okay, so the benefit of using an SPIA is that it eliminates the need to manage the investment of those funds. You won't have to determine which asset should be used to fund distributions, and you don't have to worry about outliving your assets, right? So that's the good thing about them. So if we go back to our bucket strategy training, this might be a good tool for like bucket number 2, right? So maybe you want to keep a year of savings in cash, for example, or in cash equivalents, in a high interest checking account. Well, maybe you want to have an SPIA for that year's, 2 through 4. So instead of managing, say, like a bond ladder or, managing anything that has a little more fluctuation, but may have higher returns, you could just get a guaranteed interest rate on an SPIA and maybe use that for bucket, 2 probably. That's probably the right place to put it, depending on your situation. So that's a nice thing. You don't have to worry about it, right? Obviously, you have to pay a fee for that. That's part of it. So looking at the balance of, or the trade-off, I should say, of an SPIA versus some like a managed bond ladder or a managed portfolio, you want to look at the two differences there and see what the best outcome will be for you. If you can use a lifetime annuity to cover your fixed expenses, right? So if you can take a lifetime annuity like we're talking about here, plus Social Security, and cover your fixed expenses, right? So just your basic living expenses, this does free up your remaining savings to either be invested more aggressively if you like, or used to fund discretionary expenses, so having a little bit more fun, right? Because if you know your base expenses are covered within reason, then it does free you up to spend a little bit more, take a little more risk with your money without having to worry too much on if there was a downturn in the market. And there is research that points to partial annuitization of a portfolio actually improving the sustainability. So what that means is there's research that does show that annuitizing part of your portfolio does improve sustainability and really the longevity of your portfolio, but there are some downsides, right? Because most of these products do not offer an inflation-adjusted increase. That's the big reason why folks like myself are more inclined to keep your money in a balanced portfolio of some sort, because generally over the last 45 years, you would have kept up and beat inflation and still been able to spend a good chunk of money. But there are also expenses associated with them that don't need to be paid if you have enough money to comfortably retire and cover your expenses. So with any sort of insurance product, you're going to pay expenses, right? You're going to pay commissions. The insurance companies are very smart, and they generally do not lose money. Okay, so if you think you're going to outsmart them, you're getting this amazing product, a lot of times they're being sold in ways that are too good to be true. There was a recent article that came out about fixed index annuities. A gentleman who is a fiduciary advisor he went to one of those stake seminars that I'm sure all of you have been invited to at least once, and actually made an appointment with the advisor and started asking some questions, right? Someone like me who would know what questions to ask. And the person selling the annuity, the salesman, threw the advisor out of his office because he knew that this person was asking questions that he didn't want to answer. Okay, so there's always internal expenses. Never believe that it's free. And I guess I should say there's a chance that if you bought an annuity a long time ago and it's a fixed annuity, you might have paid those already. So if annuity's paying out now and you've had it for 10, 15 years and you're past surrender periods, you might not be paying anything now, but buying into it, there are going to be some expenses associated. And if you can fund your own retirement without it, you may not want to pay those. So although SPIAs offer the income security wanted and needed by so many people, they're definitely not for everyone. First, retirees, you really need to have an emergency fund. So again, this is why I'm saying maybe for bucket 2, right? So bucket 1 is maybe your emergency fund, 9 months, a year of expenses in, easily liquidated funds, okay? So high interest rate, checking accounts, things like that, maybe even short-term CDs, CD ladder, that could be a place for that. But you want to have that in place first, and you should definitely not commit all your cash to an SPI. I don't think that's a good idea. You need to be able to afford this sort of purchase, okay? So second, retirees who don't need additional guaranteed income probably shouldn't buy an SPIA because they can cover the retirement needs without incurring the cost associated, okay? So when you're doing a retirement plan, if it looks like you're going to have a very high chance of not running out of money because you have enough assets, then this is probably not something you really want to consider, unless, again, you just want to have it for a small portion and you want to have that guaranteed income stream because it makes you feel better and sleep better at night, then maybe that's okay. So who should consider purchasing an annuity, right? So it's really the middle income retirees, the ones who have some retirement savings, but not enough to last a lifetime. Like if there's a good chance that you're going to run out of money and you don't have a ton of retirement savings, then this might be a good thing for you to purchase. And then essentially you have to just adjust your budget, right? Adjust your expenses down below where you're going to be with something like this, and make sure you don't overspend, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You're on a fixed income, And, that's okay. There's a lot of folks in that situation. So this might be a good product for that, right? So if you have any questions about that, go ahead and put them in and I'll address them. But I'm going to move to the next slide here. So if you're considering purchasing an annuity using money that's from a qualified plan or regular IRAs that represent pre-tax dollars, okay? So most folks here have a big chunk of their money in 401ks and IRAs, right? Or you have a mix of pre and post-tax dollars, then you may be concerned about proper taxation and recovery of basis. So if you have, I'm going to do an example here too, but if you have some money that's like pre and post-tax, so pre-tax 401k and a Roth 401k, and you end up purchasing using money from both buckets, then you want to be concerned that you're not going to pay double taxation essentially, right? So I'm going to show you what that would look like. So let's say, for example, you have a 401k plan that contains pre-tax and after-tax dollars. So if these amounts are distributed into an annuity, this can create some confusion about how much each annuity payment is taxable or a non-taxable distribution, okay? So double taxation can be avoided if the plan participant, which is you, has kept track of their basis, so the after-tax contributions to their plan. And generally, your plan provider, they'll keep track of that for you. Usually it's on your statement, and it'll say how much after-tax contributions you've had. But you always want to double check, and at the end of the day, you're responsible when it comes to paying your taxes properly. So you want to do a double check on that and make sure that everything's correct. So the non-taxable portion of each distribution payment is determined by dividing the cost basis by the number of anticipated monthly payments according to the following schedule for single annuitants. I'm going to go over a single annuitant schedule. I'm also going to show you the double annuitant, or if you have a spouse, but we're going to do the calculations with a single to make it real simple. So this is what the distribution schedule, let me see if I can, yeah, there we go. The distribution schedule for single annuitants. Like if you were to start an annuity at 55 or under, the schedule would be for 360 payments, so for 30 years. If you're 55 to 60, it would be for 310 payments. 61 to 65, it's 260. 67 to 70, it's 210 expected payments. And over 70, it's 160 expected payments. So let's talk about an example. So here's an example. So let's say Roberta has contributed $80,000 in after-tax dollars, okay? And she annuitized her contribution at 66 years old. So what that means is she decided to take her annuity stream starting at 66 years old. So to figure out how much of her annuity payment is tax-free, you would actually divide $80,000 by the estimated 210 payments. So let me go back a screen real quick. She's 66 years old, okay? So she's 66, so that means she falls into this category about number of payments, okay? So she's going to use 210 as her dividing factor. Okay, so when you do that, since she contributed $80,000 in after-tax dollars, we're going to divide that number by 210 because she's 66 years old, and that's the factor that she is falling under. So when you divide that, when she takes out her annuity payment each month, she's going to receive $380.95 of that completely, tax-free, because that's from her after-tax contributions. So let's say if she had a $1,000 payment, you would subtract the $380.95 from there, and then about $619.05 would be a taxable distribution, right? So that's how we would work that out when we're determining her tax-efficient withdrawal strategy, if this was going to be a factor in what we're looking at when it comes to all of her other income sources, okay? So does that make sense? So if you guys can tell me yes, that makes sense, that's clear, please give me a thumbs up or just say yes in the comments. I would appreciate that. I want to make sure that I'm not just bypassing this too quickly, because I think this is really important. Can please somebody make sure, let me know if that makes sense. We've got 20 people on here. Okay, good. Elaine, thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, just put them in the comments. Okay, so if there's more than one annuitant, so husband and wife, for example, then you would follow this combined age schedule. So if there was 2 people receiving it, you would add up the ages, of both people, right? So if you had one person that was 66 and the other person was, say, 62, then you would use 128, right? Because you'd add them both together. So 121 to 130, and then you would divide that total number, as I showed you in the previous calculation, by 310 in that case, right? So, that's how it would work if you are married and you are doing a joint, right? You have more than one annuitant, okay? So that's a factor you would use. Okay, so that was the single premium immediate annuities. Now we're going to talk about qualified longevity annuity contracts, also known as QLACs, okay? These actually, I think, are actually pretty cool if you have a good chunk of money put aside. They can really help out on the long term. But if you don't have a lot of money put aside, then you might not see quite as much benefits. Okay, so like I mentioned, these are also known as QLACs. So QLACs are deferred annuities where the lifetime annuity payments do not begin until a later date, which is usually 85, right? So you could take it earlier, but to get the best benefit, I think 85 is typically, that's what these are for. So they're ideally, and I'm going to go into detail, but you take a chunk of your money that this is just put in for, like, say 85 and later. So if you do live longer than you expect, because every day we see in the group, everybody wants to take their Social Security at 62 because they think they're going to pass away before 78 or something. But in reality, the average age people live to is about 84 for men and 86 for women. So that means that's the average, right? So that means 50% are going to live longer, okay? So 50% of you folks are going to live longer than 85. That's just statistics. So that's reality. So if you have longevity in your family especially, this could be a good way to hedge and to make sure that you don't run out of money later. So let's get into these just a little bit here. So QLACs can be a cost-effective way for retirees to trade a portion of their savings for protection against the risk of outliving their assets. I think they solve a really important issue of longevity risk, which is running out of money, by transferring the risk to an insurance company, which presumably is better equipped to manage it, right? So, we hope that's around, looking at A++ providers is probably what you want to do. But there's a lot of things insurance companies have to keep in place to make sure that they're not going to run out of money there. But there is still a small percentage of chance that a company could go out of business. Look at AIG. If it wasn't bailed out by the government, that could have gone out of business, and people who own products through them would have had a lot of problems, most likely, if that was the case. They could be insured other places, but again, you want to protect yourself, so make sure you're working with very, very high quality companies. But these annuities are really the closest thing to a pure contractually guaranteed transfer risk strategy. So if you've never heard of these before, in a way you can compare them to like term insurance, right? Term insurance, it's cheap. 98% of people never actually collect on their policies. But at the end of the day, it's a pure contract transfer of risk strategy to where if you were to pass away before you had enough money for whoever's left behind, if it's your spouse or children or whatnot, to be self-sufficient, term insurance is a great way to protect against that. That's similar. This is kind of like the term insurance of the annuity world in a sense. Again, it's not the same, but I'm just trying to make it relatable because I think most of you have heard of term insurance. But they're pretty low cost, and really it's just a contractually guaranteed transfer of risk, right? That's what it's there for. So, and despite the extremely long name, they're actually pretty simple, right? In the scheme of the annuity world. The annuity world is a nightmare, especially if you're a consumer trying to figure out what you need, and that's why I'm trying to help you today and bring you some things I think would be okay. But again, always get independent third-party fiduciary advice from a fee-only planner or somebody that's not earning a commission off of you that can be influenced by what they sell you. I think that's the best way you can go about it. There's no annual fees. They have a low upfront commission. And because they're required currently to be fixed annuities, there's no moving parts and no attachment to the stock market, right? So it's pretty simple and straightforward. That's why I like these. I think they're okay. Folks have asked about fixed index annuities before. The index is typically tied to the market, plus you don't get the dividend, and you only get part of whatever the market returns, and it's maxed out. So there's a lot of things that are going into those indexed annuities that I'm not a big fan of. But these here, I think, can be pretty good, right? When it comes to the longevity aspect and what you're going to pay. So here's how I believe you should look at something like a QLAC or QLAC. You should really think about the income generated by QLAC as you do the income you receive Social Security, which is a guarantee and not an investment. They're not sexy, okay? Pretty straightforward. And they don't produce double-digit returns, but they do have the potential to solve one of your biggest risks, which is running out of money. You know, that's a really big risk, actually, for a lot of people. In 2014, the IRS approved the use of QLACs in qualified plans and IRAs, and as of 2018, the IRS actually increased the amount you can use from your retirement accounts to $130,000 or 25% of the balance, so whichever is less, okay? So that's the most you can do, or 25% to purchase a longevity annuity, and you can actually be exempted from the 70.5 RMD requirements. So that's another reason why this might be something really interesting for you, because once the money is in the QLAC or QLAC, that money is no longer part of your RMD requirement. So, you know, if you want to put this money in there and then not take it out till 85, because that's part of your long-term game plan when it comes to your income strategy, well, this money is now eliminated from taxes and being a requirement. Well, I shouldn't say it's eliminated from taxes. It's eliminated if you don't annuitize. But at 70.5, you can put part of your money in there, and then that portion would not be taxable or not be required to be an RMD distribution. So really interesting thing to think about here. And some products are also now offering an optional return of premium benefit and inflation protection. But of course, these come at a cost, right? They come at a cost to the insured in terms of reduced payments. So if you opt into these benefits on getting inflation protection, then you're going to possibly get reduced payments. So it's a trade-off here. I feel like I'm doing a commercial for annuity salesmen. Please don't take it as that. I'm trying to give you good info. But you know, that's some things you want to think about, because if you're buying one and you're 70, for example, in 15 years, there could be a good amount of inflation that happens. And so the money you're expecting to get would be worth lower than today's value, obviously, right? So with the $130,000 limit, that means you'll need at least $520,000 in your retirement accounts to max out the benefits of a QLAC. So it doesn't mean you can't use one. So if you have, say $400,000, then the most you can put into a QLAC is $100,000. Does that make sense? So it's 25% or the $130,000 limit. But if you have above $520,000, you're going to be capped at putting $130,000 into one of these products. But if you have less than $520,000, your personal limit will be lower, okay? If you've already purchased a QLAC before they raised the limits, because they just raised the limits in 2018, like I mentioned, you can possibly increase the amount from your current provider or purchase an additional $5,000 contract. So if you already have one of these or you're thinking about purchasing one, you probably want to check into it every 2 to 4 years just to keep up on it. They may add another, an additional inflation increase every 2 to 4 years. So the more money you can get in here, potentially, you could also reduce taxes by not having to take RMD at 70.5. So I know a lot of folks are continuing to work, past 70.5, and they have RMDs they have to take from IRAs, for example. 401ks at the place you're working at, you don't have to take from. But putting some of this money in there, if you're going to continue to work and you're in good health for 85 and later, it might be a really good strategy. I mean, something to consider for you. So, is a QLAC right for you? Here's some of my thoughts around that. There's a gentleman named Jason S. Scott he's a retirement research director for Financial Engines. If you haven't heard of Financial Engines, they're like massive. They hold like a bunch of massive company 401ks and things like that. So it's a big company, right? So he wrote that for a typical retiree, putting 10 to 15% of retirement savings into a longevity annuity would generate the same income as putting 50 to 60% in an immediate annuity, right? So that's pretty crazy if you think about it. If you put 10 to 15% of your retirement savings in a longevity annuity, it's about the same as putting 50 to 60% in an immediate annuity. So pretty interesting. So these findings are supported by QLAC income illustrations. So here's an example of what that would look like. So let's say a 70-year-old male purchases a $100,000 QLAC and expects to receive a payment of, can expect to receive a payment of $3,337 per month beginning at age 85 for life. So that's a 40.04% annual payout rate. That's really what it comes down to. If you were to compare this with an immediate annuity, you purchase at age 85, you can expect a monthly benefit of about $1,067 or a 12.8% annual payout rate. So, buying one of these at 70 and then using it at 85, it's going to give you a lot higher payout versus an immediate annuity. Like if you just went at 85 years old and went to go buy an immediate annuity with $100,000, you're only going to get about 12.8% annual payout rate. So it's a big difference when you really look at the future potential income for it. So the very dramatic difference is due to premium contributions having a number of years to grow in the deferred annuity, right? So if you're putting it in early, it's going to have some time to grow, so you can get a much higher payout down the road. And I think this, again, it could be a good strategy for you. Okay. Also, these annuity payments will be made for fewer years, and a large percentage of payments are subsidized by premiums paid by those who don't live to collect benefits. So that's a risk you're taking. So another reason why they can afford to make such large payouts is because, again, 50% of people are, going to pass away at 85 or before, right, on average. So there's, everything's a trade-off, at the end of the day, that if you decide to put a chunk of your money in here and you never use it, well, the money's gone, right? You don't get to just and pass it on to the folks at your heirs, for example. But if you do use it and you live to, say, 90, for example, well, then you start coming out way ahead. And honestly, there's a lot of research that's saying if you are alive in the year 2030, right? So that's 12 years from now, there is an extremely high chance that you're going to be living to 100, 110, 120. So I think some of these things are going to be changing down the road. Look at the long-term care market. The long-term care insurance market is a complete disaster. I'm really concerned that they're going to be able to pay out on the policies that people have in place now without making huge increases in what you're required to pay. So there could be some things down the road, but once you have your contract, you have your contract here. So again, it might be something interesting for you to take a look at. So Dick, I answered your question there. The money's gone when you pass away, right? So that's what happens. So there's a lot of research that supports allocating 15 to 30% of your total portfolio to a deferred annuity such as a QLAC. But there's other research that sets the percentage lower due to the opportunity cost of not having those investable dollars in higher yielding accounts. So, that's kind of my max. Like I don't really recommend over that amount because I think that's high. Because in general, like if you look at 45 years of market history, maybe we're expected to see some lower returns over the next decade than average, but still, locking up too much of your money in something like this may really, hurt you on the long term. But 15%, not a big deal. It's not gonna kill you either way. But it can actually provide a good income stream later down the road. So it may be worthwhile for you to consider putting a portion here. Okay. But regardless of the dollar amount you allocate, knowing that you have a lifetime annuity payments that'll kick in at some point can provide some peace of mind and allow you to spend some of your remaining assets more freely and even invest more aggressively. So, someone asked me before, I can't remember who it was, I'll think of it, but asked me if I would ever buy an annuity. Generally, no, but depending on the situation, if I'm 70 years old and, I'm really healthy and something like this is around, then I may consider it because I think it could be a good idea if you have a good chunk of money, But again, it may not be the right idea if you don't have, if you're not within the guidelines I'm going to mention here. So QLACs are not for everyone, and each individual should do a quality assessment of their level of wealth and ability to self-insure for longevity and what you really want to accomplish with your retirement dollars, period. So, it's not always about the numbers, right? Numbers are important, but you always have to look at what sort of life do you want to have in retirement? Do you want to have more money available to spend, to give, to leave for an inheritance, right? Those are things that are important. And if you can self-fund your retirement pretty comfortably with a high level of confidence, then this might not be right for you, right? So, it's really for a very specific range of folks. But if you have low risk tolerance, it could be something you want to look at. So if you have poor health or a high level of assets, you probably don't need the guarantees of an annuity like this, right? So if you're concerned, you have health concerns, so for all you folks that think you're going to pass away, at 70 or 75 because you have family history that just really indicates that, this probably is not the right thing. But if you are relatively healthy now and your parents are relatively healthy and you think there's a chance you could be living past then and you want to dedicate a portion, then it might make sense. So as I mentioned here, however, for those that have a history of longevity in their family and are healthy, and those with Social Security as their only source of guaranteed income, purchasing a longevity annuity could make sense and could possibly make an impact on improving your financial security later in life. I think just that's probably the number one issue I hear is people are worried about running out of money. And so this can impact that peace of mind to where you at least have some sort of guaranteed income stream on top of Social Security if something were to ever happen to the rest of your funds. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. I hope you learned some things, took some things away. If you need additional help, if you want to talk to me on a one-on-one and get a complimentary consultation, I took my feedback from you guys and updated my website domain name to keepitsimplefinancial.com. But you can go to keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk and go there and schedule a complimentary 45-minute consultation, and we can discuss really where you're at, where you want to go, and really help you lay out a step-by-step game plan to get there. That's what we do on these calls. I try to provide as much value as I possibly can, but I can't give specific investment advice, obviously, because you're not a client. But I really, really will do everything I can to help you lay out a step-by-step game plan from where you want to go to get you where you want to be at the end of the day. So if folks in here have hopped on calls with me, a lot of them will tell you like it's a good use of your time. You're going to get a lot out of it, and if it makes sense for me to help you achieve your goals and really help you with that game plan, then we'll talk about that and we'll see what that would look like, right? But I really want to make getting some assistance really easy for you. So if you would like to have some help, go to keepitsimplefinancial.com/talk and schedule your appointment. I'm going to be very busy towards the end of this year here, so we're taking on limited people, but I'm going to make some times available for you. So other than that, what questions do you have? Let's drop the questions in the comments. I'm going to review right now while the internet catches up to me asking you for that. Let's see. So Tom said, as these are not preferred, how about talking more about the balanced portfolio? Yeah, so that would probably have to be a whole another discussion. If annuities, like I mentioned here, like if you have really low risk tolerance or there's a good chance you're going to run out of money, it's probably something you want to consider. But if you have a little bit higher risk tolerance, even average or above, getting into a balanced portfolio of some sort that will generate enough income to meet your needs, will grow and beat inflation so that you can actually increase your spending a little bit each year by an inflation factor. That's really more preferred, because once you buy into one of these things, then unless you pay for the rider of an inflation increase, you're just going to get a flat fixed income for the rest of your life. And so if you do live 20, 30, or 40 years in retirement, which is going to be very reasonable for a lot of people, in 20 years, that money is just not going to be worth the same as it is today. So that flat, return is all you're going to get. But, allocating a portion to one of these might not be bad. So we could talk. I'll have to talk more about that in another training, Tom, but that's kind of my general thoughts. Dick, I answered your question already. And what happens to the money when you pass away? And the annuity, if you pick single life, once you pass away, it's gone. If you have you and your spouse on the contract, then once you and your spouse pass away, it's gone. Some have a beneficiary, but again, you're getting a much reduced payment, and that kind of goes against what you're trying to accomplish with something like this. So the money is gone. Tracy asked, will I be covering the pros and cons of variable annuities? We can do that. In all honesty, variable annuities are not that great of a product. In general, they're just very expensive, and you pay out a lot of commissions to the folks that sell them. But they do have some use cases, definitely, especially if you're very, very high income, right? And you have some years until retirement. So I can definitely cover that at some point, but I'm not a huge fan of most of them. So that's why I talked about these two today, because I think these actually have a lot of value for you. So if there's any other questions, drop them in the comments. But if not, then we will wrap up today. I would really appreciate you guys showing up today. And remember to take a look down in the information section. I'm going to be posting some new things there and a new ebook that I just finished up for you guys to download and have for you. It's called 6 Steps to Retire When You Want. and it's actually pretty in-depth and covers a lot of different things you should be thinking about as you're making the transition into retirement when it comes to your savings, your budgeting, your health care, all these different things. So keep a lookout for that. That'll be coming either today or tomorrow. And other than that, guys, have a great afternoon. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you soon, all right? Bye-bye now.